Hi, I'm a possum and I find garbage. And I just saw The First Omen. It's a prequel to The Omen, the original one that came out in, like, what, is it, 1976 or whatever. I'm gonna try not to spoil it in this review, because I actually kind of like this movie. I mean, it's not great, but it's a lot better than I was expecting it to be. But first of all, I noticed a continuity error really early on. Like, the main character, Margaret, she's like a nun in training or whatever. She gets off a plane in Rome. She's like in a car talking to this priest guy. And I noticed the rear windshield of the car, it has like defroster lines, but they kept like disappearing between cuts. So it's like they had to go back and reshoot that scene with a different car, I guess. And the guy she's talking to, you never see them in the same shot together. So I'm guessing what happened is they shot the whole scene, and then I guess they recast that other guy's part after they had already shot it. They just stuck to like close-ups of each character and did like a shot reverse shot type of thing. But the movie, for the most part, like, it actually has like real cinematography. It's not like a modern movie. The movie, for the most part, actually kind of looks like a movie from the 70s. I don't mean like that one like novelty trailer they did where they have like the fake like film scratches and stuff. I mean like the way it's shot, they use a lot of like zoom lenses and stuff. There's a lot of like long takes. You know, they'll have like a dialogue scene that plays out, you know, with like like a long shot instead of doing the shot reverse shot type thing. You know, that I complain about a lot in some, reviews of more recent movies, like they did a lot of that in that new Indiana Jones movie that came out last year. That sucked. You know, a lot of movies are shot for coverage. What that means is they try to shoot everything in such a way that it gives them, leeway to change anything in editing. So it's a lot of just close-ups of the actors' faces, like isolated close-ups. So if they have to cut something out, they can just cut to a close-up of something and then cut back, and not have like a jump cut. Because if you do a whole scene as one continuous shot, like one continuous wide shot, and you have to cut something out or add something in, you kind of ruin it. That's why they shoot everything for coverage now. It's because in big movies that cost millions of dollars, studio executives get nervous and they start demanding last-second changes based on market research and stuff like that. So whoever directed this movie, I don't know who directed it, someone I never heard of, they decided to actually commit to the look of the movie. And it's not just the cinematography, it's also the lighting. Because a lot of modern movies, like horror movies, if they want to have like a dark scene, they'll just, overlight everything and then just darken it in post. And it looks terrible. Because, like, they fill in all the shadows and stuff and then just darken it in post, and it looks artificial. It doesn't look the way your brain says it should look. In this movie, they actually have, like, shadows and stuff. And again, that's another one of those things where they want to have complete control over the movie in post. In this case, the director actually committed to the look they were going for. So, the shadows look real. Like, the lighting looks real and motivated in most of the movie. Like I said, it looks like a movie from the 70s. Like, it looks good. It looks like a real movie and not like a 2-hour YouTube sketch that every modern movie looks like now. And by the way, I'm not reading from a script or anything. I'm just going by notes here. Anyway, there is a monster in the movie, but they make the very wise decision to not show much of it, because it would have just looked kind of goofy if they did, I'm sure. They just kind of show like its hands, like a close-up of its mouth at one point, and you can see its eye at some point. You'd never get like an unobstructed view of the whole thing. It's not like a monster movie. There is a monster in it, but it's not about the monster. It appears in a couple scenes. Yeah, they very wisely decided not to show it because it would have looked like, goofy, stupid-looking rubber monster if they did. The bad guys' motivations are kind of questionable. There's multiple bad guys. It's like there's a conspiracy. These people, they want to like bring about the birth of the Antichrist. Like, that's what the whole movie's about. If you've seen the trailer, you probably know that. And the reasons they want to do this don't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, because they're not Satanists. And I can't really go into detail without spoiling it, so I won't. But partway through the movie, like there's a big twist. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. There's like a good twist is one that makes you remember everything that happened earlier in the movie with a new perspective, and it makes you say, oh, it all makes sense now. And a bad twist is one that makes you say, huh, what? If they were trying to do this, then why did they do that and this other thing? Doesn't that contradict what they're trying to do? You know what I mean. There is a big twist. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. For example, there's a part where the main character, Margaret, she meets this guy who apparently doesn't know her, but then you find out later that they've met before. Like, she was there during this event that she suppressed the memory of, but somehow he didn't know her when they met later. So even though he was there, he would have recognized her. I might be misremembering something, but it seems like he was there when this major event happened, so he should have known who she was, but he didn't. So it doesn't make sense. And there's other stuff like that in the movie too. Like there's a part in the trailer where this one of the nuns, she like lights herself on fire and then like hangs herself. Like, she's in on the conspiracy. It doesn't really make sense why she would do that. It becomes apparent the other bad guys didn't want her to do that. Like it doesn't benefit their plans in any way. But I guess it's just like a callback to the original movie. That's the only reason I can think of for why they did it. Just like a weird, creepy thing to put in the trailer, and because it's a callback to the original movie. Now, there's this notorious birthing scene that you may have read about because apparently they had to like tone it down in order to get an R rating, as opposed to an NC-17 rating, which would have prevented it from being shown in the vast majority of theaters. Yeah, there's this really graphic like birth scene where it's not like I'm trying to avoid spoiling it, but it's not a baby that's coming out of her. Let's just say that. But yeah, they show everything. Yeah, I'm just kind of surprised they showed as much as they did and still managed to get an R rating. So, there's that. Now, I'm gonna compare it to another horror movie that I saw not too long ago, The Nun 2, which was a really crappy movie. The Nun 2 does a lot of this stuff where, like, the main character will see something creepy just because the demon in that movie is making her see creepy things. And in that movie, it doesn't really make any sense. Like, it's just creepy stuff for the sake of having creepy stuff happen. And it doesn't make any sense. It has nothing to do with anything. And it actually goes against the motivations of the demon. There's no reason the demon should be trying to do these, like, spooky visuals to this character. At certain points in the movie, when doing so actively undermines the demon's goals. Now, there are scenes in this movie where the main character, Margaret, sees creepy things, but it's actually, it makes sense within the logic of the movie. It's motivated by the plot. It has something to do with the plot. It's like, she explains early in the movie, it's like, oh, I've always had, like, weird visions, because I guess I'm just crazy or whatever. That's why I decided to become a nun or whatever. And I'm trying not to spoil it, but it turns out they're not really, they're not just hallucinations. Yeah, there's stuff like that where she'll just see things, that are creepy, but it's actually justified within the movie, unlike in The Nun 2. There's also very few jump scares in the movie. I mean, there's a couple where like loud noises and stuff. Like, there's this one particular scene where Margaret, she hears something and looks, and there's like this character comes like emerging from the shadows. It's just like another one of her visions or whatever. This character comes emerging from the shadows. It's like this like drawn out like creepy thing. She's like really slowly coming toward her, and I was expecting it to do like that stupid modern horror movie thing where she just like suddenly rushes toward the camera really quick and it plays like an obnoxious like orchestral sting. They didn't do that. The movie has very few jump scares. It's relying more on like creepy imagery and like slow burn type stuff. Very unlike a typical modern horror movie. I mean, it still has a little bit of that in there, but it's not obnoxious like in the same way something like The Nun 2 is. There was this one pretty goofy thing in the movie. They make a reference to, 666, the number of the beast. There's like a scene where Margaret's talking to a guy. He's like, the Antichrist will be born on June 6th at 6 a.m. And I know that's like a thing that happens in the original Omen, and they can't really get around that. That was a plot point in the original movie, and this is a prequel to that movie, so they couldn't really avoid it. It is just kind of like a goofy, stupid thing that I guess they just had to put it in there. They couldn't ignore it. That's a small thing. It's a kind of a nitpick, really. Now, there's a lot of scenes in this movie where just like random things would happen. And I know the original Omen did this, where that was kind of the plot, though. Like, in the original Omen, the guy, this is like a guy taking pictures. He takes photos, and there's like little defects in the photos that seem to hint at how the subject in the photo is gonna die. Like, there's that guy who gets decapitated, and in the photo, there's like a line going through his neck, and the other guy gets impaled, and there's like a line going into his shoulder or something. Like, so it's almost like Final Destination logic, where there's not like a character or a thing that's killing everyone. It's just kind of like an ethereal force, almost like supernaturally bad luck, I guess. I guess you could say, you could chalk it up to demons, but there's nothing, like, it's not really explained in this movie. It might have been a deleted scene or something. But stuff like that kind of happens in this movie where just like random occurrences will happen, and they're not justified by the plot at all. Because there's never like a point in the movie it's like, oh, there's like supernatural shenanigans trying to stop us from doing what we're trying to do. No, they just kind of happen, and it feels totally random and out of place. Like, for example, there's this one part where Margaret is in a car, and she and a couple of other characters are in the car, and they're speeding off to try to get somewhere. And they suddenly get, like, there's like a car crash. They crash into another car, or rather another car crashes into them. They get T-boned. And at first I thought it was like the bad guys were running them off the road, and they were gonna like get out of the car and like surround them and like drag her out of the car and like abduct her. That doesn't happen. It's just like a random car crashes into them. And then Margaret gets out of the car, and I guess like she's got like demons in her or something. So she starts like screaming and like convulsing and like flopping around all over. This goes on for like a full minute of her just like standing there screaming. It's done as like one continuous shot. It's kind of like that scene in Possession when she was like, I guess in like the subway or whatever it was, and she's got like her bag of groceries and she like splats her eggs on the walls and stuff. It was like that scene, but I don't know if this is like a reference to that, but it just goes on for like a full minute of her just like screaming and flailing around. Anyway, yeah, I guess I don't really have anything else to say about the movie that I can think of right now, other than like a few kind of stupid things in there. This is one of the better recent horror movies I've seen. It's not great. It's not going to change your life, but modern horror movies, the standards for modern horror movies are so low right now that this looks like a friggin' masterpiece. So, I don't know, I guess I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Go see it. So, I guess that's it. Like this video, leave a comment, subscribe if you're not. Check my channel for other videos you may have missed. Send me your fan art. Follow me on Twitter and all that. Support me on Patreon. Bye.